Matthew, the front runner to take over at the US Central Bank, out of the race.
That's right. Of course, Ben Bernanke, the current boss, but he'll be leaving in January. And until now, there have been two front runners. The first of those, Larry Summers, Lawrence Summers, a former Treasury Secretary. We can see him there. Also a senior economic advisor to Barack Obama in his first term. The other front runner was Janet Yellen, and she's the current vice chair at the Federal Reserve. Well, now it seems there's just one real front runner because Larry Summers has pulled out. He was seen as a controversial choice by many, but it was believed that President Obama had been leaning towards him. Well, Siobhan Silk now has more.
The biggest job in economics, the chair of the Federal Reserve. Larry Summers was rumoured to have the White House's favour. Fated as a brilliant economist and experienced at dealing with crisis, he already had the president's ear, having served in Obama's first administration.
As one of the great economic minds of our time, Larry has earned a global reputation for being able to cut to the heart of the most complex and novel policy challenges.
But Summers is known to be difficult to work with. He was even forced to quit as president of Harvard University in 2006. And working for the Clinton administration, he was a leading proponent of deregulation of the banking sector in the 1990s, which contributed to the global financial crisis. That prompted several Democrats on the confirmation committee to announce they would oppose Summers' nomination. Rather than create division, Summers has decided to step aside.
I have reluctantly concluded that any possible confirmation process for me would be acrimonious and would not serve the interest of the Federal Reserve, the administration, or, ultimately, the interest of the nation's ongoing economic recovery.
That leaves his main challenger, Janet Yellen, as the front-runner. A consensus builder, she's already the vice chair of the Fed and knows its workings inside out. She's credited with foreseeing crises that others missed, including predicting the bursting of the housing bubble. Her closeness to current Fed chief Ben Bernanke could also be a plus. His successor will have to rule on major measures like quantitative easing to keep the US economy on the right track.
So we'll see how that race turns out. Meanwhile, the markets will be keeping an eye on what the Fed has got to say later this week, and in particular whether it's going to start easing back on this huge $85 billion bond buying program stimulating the US economy. Now, we know that there are plans to ease back, to taper it, as in the jargon, because Ben Bernanke said back in June that when the US unemployment rate gets to 7%, he doesn't want there to be any more of this bond buying. He doesn't think the economy needs the support anymore. Well, let's take a look at what's been happening to the US unemployment rate. It's been falling, as you can see. It's currently down at 7.3%, so it's widely expected later this week when they meet, Tuesday and Wednesday, we will hear that perhaps that tapering has started. Meanwhile, investors seemed to like the sound if Larry Summers pulling out of that race. That's probably because he's seen as someone who's more likely to pull back on that bond buying and also raise interest rates. Take a look at what's been happening in Asia in the markets this Monday, and they've all been up. The Shanghai Composite was down in earlier trading, but now they're all up. Just the Nikkei closed. That's for a public holiday today.
OK, Matthew. Meanwhile, back here in France, President Hollande has been speaking out and repeating a promise he's made several times to bring down unemployment.
That's right. Unemployment also a key issue here, but the curve has been going in the opposite direction to what we just saw there in the US. In fact, it's been rising, and François Hollande has promised that that rise will start falling by the end of the year. In fact, it's been over 27 months now that we've seen a monthly rise going up like this, well over 10%. Now, well, he seems optimistic he can start to get it going down. Let's take a listen to what the French president had to say.
We have nearly reached our end goal. Around this time last year, I promised the French people that I would do everything possible with the government of Jean-Marc Ayrault to reverse the trend of rising unemployment and reduce it by the end of 2013. We are there, nearly.
Finally, Matthew, a lot of people like to avoid late night working, not least yourself, because you're always on very early in the morning. A group of workers in Paris would like to have more of it.
That's right. Yes, yesterday, this ad, let me show you, this ad ran in French Newspapers. Now it's all about Sephora, which is a perfume chain here in Paris on the Champs-Elysées. And these workers saying that this is from workers there saying that we want to continue working. You can see a bit more of the detail there. Now they say they want to keep working in the evening. Now, why are they running an ad in the French newspapers? Well, there's this big legal battle going on over this chain of perfume stores, and in particular this one on the Champs-Elysées, because they currently opens until midnight and even 1 a.m. at the weekends. But the union is saying that legal rules should be applied, which say that it can only open till 9 p.m. Well, not everybody who works there is happy about that. Some of them want to keep on working because they get more overtime as well. Let's take a listen to a representative from the union about why they want to see the store close earlier.
If we start ignoring the rules that we've spent so long putting in place for a company that simply wants to earn more money, in that case, then there are no more rules. Company rules should be respected just as much as the other rules of society.
OK, well, that's the union point of view. What about people who shop on the Champs-Elysées? There are plenty of them out over the weekend. Let's take a listen to what they think about workers who might want to stay at their jobs a bit late into the night.
Working is good.
If the employees are not exploited, then why not? But that should be done on a voluntary basis.
I work in a supermarket that closes at 10 p.m. and I think they should do the same. It's not just because we're on the Champs-Elysées. The people who work here should still have the right to a normal life.
They'll be opening on Sundays next week. Matthew Rowan, thank you very much. That's it for the business. Time now for web news.
Stéphane Turc, the jeweller from Nice in France, who shot dead a robber as he fled his shop last Wednesday, has been charged with voluntary manslaughter. But there has been massive support for him online. A support group set up on Facebook has drawn over 1,400,000 likes. Indeed, a great many web users have visited the page to show the shopkeeper their support, saying he acted in legitimate self-defence. In fact, many have hailed his actions. They've had enough of insecurity and delinquency, and accuse the French government of having a lax attitude towards these issues. But the unprecedented level of support has prompted investigations as to where the Facebook likes have actually come from. Basing their comments on statistical analysis site Social Bakers, Twitter users are pointing out that over 80% of the Facebook group's likes are actually from abroad. So has someone purchased these clicks to artificially inflate the page's popularity? Guillaume Foutiou, a lecturer at the Paris Institute of Political Studies, thinks this scenario is highly unlikely given the amount of money involved. He estimates the price of 950,000 fake Facebook likes at around $15,000. But online commentators are saying this may be a large sum of money for your average web user, but not necessarily for a political party, and are suggesting this online campaign has been orchestrated by the right or extreme right. An anti-begging campaign launched last week by Exeter City Council in southern England has drawn strong criticism from web users across the UK. The campaign poster advises against giving money to people begging on the streets, claiming they'll only go and spend it on drugs. Many have taken to social networks to condemn the campaign and the message it conveys. They say the campaign is offensive and full of prejudice against beggars and the homeless. This web user, for example, has started a petition calling on the city of Exeter to rethink its stance. He says stigmatising people living on the streets will only isolate them further from the rest of society. Exeter City Council has responded to this wave of criticism, publishing a statement on the campaign's Facebook page defending the initiative, saying a recent street needs audit showed 70% of people begging on the street were in accommodation and were not sleeping rough. They were begging to feed an addiction. The council has also shared a link directing web users to another web page, which features, amongst other things, a list of registered charities for the homeless. If web users want to help the homeless, then the council recommends making a financial donation to one of these organisations. With Topsy.com's new search engine, you can sift through the billions of messages posted on Twitter since its inception and read the first ever tweet written by its founder Jack Dorsey in 2006. Twitter's own search system is somewhat limited, but this Californian startup, which specializes in data analysis for social networks, has indexed every single tweet posted on the famous microblogging site. This is Maxwell, a three-legged cat who's become something of a sensation on Instagram, thanks to the cute little hats he wears in the numerous photos shared online by his owner, Adam Ellis. Yes, web users can't get enough of this homemade headgear for kitties. Watch a woman age decades in just a few minutes, from a young girl to an old woman. This video, entitled Danielle, was produced by Anthony Cerniello, based on one of his friends and using photographs of her and cousins and other relatives with similar features. The end result is amazing, and you can check out the video in its entirety on all good video sharing platforms.
That's it from Web News. We're going to take a very short break now here on Live from Paris, after which I'll be back with all the latest news. And in Asia Live, we're going to be heading to our bureau in Japan and reporting on that perennially controversial issue, whaling.